Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today we're going to look at how to sanitize this so you don't spread disease among your trees and kill them. Let's get busy. A lot of times you may not think that trees can get sick with different bacteria and viruses in the same way that people can, and in some ways that's true because they don't catch a cold and they don't catch the flu, but what they can catch are plant-borne diseases, some things like fire blight and other things that are bacterial or viral in nature. There is a way that they can transfer those illnesses. One of those ways is by those diseases being carried by pollinating insects. When they go and then they land on the flowers of another tree, that pollination same mechanism allows those bacteria and those viruses to go into the tree. And that's how fire blight is transferred, is by little insects landing on the flowers of other types of fruit. But another way that these pathogens get transferred is by your cutting tools, by your pruning tools. Because think about it, you cut into one kind of tree that's sick, or one kind of plant that's sick, and those bacteria get on these blades and are microscopic, you can't even see them. And you cut into another tree and those bacteria go right into the middle of that wood and start infecting that wood. And you maybe, before you know it, have infected half the trees in your orchard without having thought twice about it. And so I'm going to show you an example of the type of bacteria, the type of illness that a tree can have, as well as how to properly disinfect your tools. So let's take a look at that. What I have behind me here is this Shinseki Asian pear, and you might notice that compared to the other two, the Hosui and the Shinko, I think is the other one, this is a lot smaller. It's spread out decently, but part of the reason for that is because I have had to cut out a ton of the wood, and the reason for that is I have identified fire blight. Fire blight is a nasty pathogen that can get transferred. It gets put into the flower when these trees flower, and that pathogen goes down. It is pretty much exclusive to apples, pears, and other pome fruit. And what it does is it starts at the top where that flower is, and it slowly spreads down the wood. And so you have to be a little bit drastic with this and in getting rid of it. And so the first thing you want to do if you identify something like fire blight, go Google it, because this is not as advanced. There were some more black ones that I threw off into those bushes over there. You notice how this is starting to get blackened? The reason they call it fire blight is because it looks almost like the wood has become burned. And a lot of times if this is left, these will turn totally just blackish. You notice how compared to these healthy Asian pear over here, these Asian pear are just sucked in and totally turning this blackish color. And so unfortunately, it may be traveling down the stem here. The way that you're able to get ahead of this stuff is by making a very significant and severe pruning cut way down. They've got some parameters on this, which I don't quite remember at the moment, but essentially I'm going to cut this entire potentially unhealthy branch off. You see how much I took out of this particular one, just to make sure that I'm getting ahead of it. Even though this foliage looks totally healthy, it's very possible that it wouldn't have been. And so, yeah, I've made a pretty severe cut to get ahead of that fire blight. Okay, so now I've made that cut. I've stopped the fire blight. And so then I take this. Imagine I take this and I notice that on my other Asian pear, I want to make a couple of just pruning cuts. What is on this that is going to now transfer into the new one? If you guessed fire blight, you're the big winner. And if I made the cut, then I'm the big loser. This has to be disinfected, or else I'm going to transfer these pathogens onto a totally healthy tree. And I don't want to do that. And so what I'm going to use is I'm going to show you how to make a quick little tincture of disinfectant for those things. And the best method for that is Lysol. This is Lysol concentrate, so it's going to allow you to make a concentrate that you can dip your tool in to disinfect it. I'm going to talk through the advantages of Lysol over a couple of other methods. Now the reality is that there are a number of substances that can be used to disinfect your tools. You can use isopropyl alcohol, you can use bleach. However, the reason why I suggest that you use Lysol and why you ought to seriously consider it is that Lysol and other similar household disinfectants do not corrode the metal. Bleach, alcohol, and some of these others are known to corrode and create little pits in the metal. And when you need your shears to be sharp to make those really clean cuts, you want to avoid materials that are going to cause that sort of thing. So Lysol is generally the way that I would recommend you go. Although you may want to research that, and if you've got something else handy at home, you're welcome to use that as well, as long as you're taking good care of your metal on the aftermath of that. In looking at the directions for Lysol, this says it makes 9 gallons, but that's not in the strength that we're going to be using it. We're going to be using it in a much more strong setting than that. We want to disinfect, and so what it's suggesting is that we do 5 tablespoons or 2.5 ounces to 1 quart of water, and that's to disinfect. I'm going to make it even a little bit stronger than that. I'm going to do 5 tablespoons or 2.5 ounces to a single pint. And what I've used is this mason jar over here in order to do that. And you see here that this is just about 16 ounces, which is half of a quart or half of a liter, roughly. And I'm going to use this, so we're looking at 5 tablespoons in this amount. And so 5 tablespoons is going to get us what? Oh, I guess this has ounces on it. So it says 2.5, 3 ounces, so I'm going to be shooting for about that much of Lysol. Let's try it. Oh, this stuff stinks. That's the one downside to Lysol. I guess all of them are pretty nasty. Okay, so that's about 3.5 ounces, 3.5 ounces, which is fine by me. Now what I need to do is I need to take this concentrate and carefully add some water to it. Okay, so that's about full right now. This looks like iced tea, but it's nothing like iced tea. This has a really noxious smell. I really don't like it. Oh, it's so gross to get on your fingers too. That's the one downside of this, it stinks. So what I'll come over here do, and I'm doing this all one-handed, is I'm going to hold this down and just kind of do that in order to mix it up. Okay, what I want to do now is take and dip my shears in here, and what I do is I make sure that as much as may have even been exposed to this is now sitting there getting cleaned out. I may even actuate this stuff just to make sure that every piece is getting contact with this Lysol solution. I will leave this in here for a couple of minutes, a couple of minutes, just to make sure. Oftentimes if I'm out here pruning, what I'll do is I'll leave one of my pruning shears in here to disinfect while I'm using the other, and then I'll swap them out. And ideally, the best practice is to clean off your shears in between each tree. Just like a doctor, if he's examining, one patient, he changes his gloves. Between patients, it's the exact same kind of thing with this. And so this legitimately did cut something that was really ill. Now this stuff stinks so bad, I'm so reluctant to touch it. Ideally, I would have some paper towels out here, but I don't. So I'm just gonna shake this out and hope that it doesn't, start to rust, or try to get most of the moisture off of here. Okay, well, you've used this and you think, well, what am I gonna do with this now? Nothing, you just put a cap on it, store it for later, and when you bring it out, shake it up, make sure that it's all nice and well shaken, and do it over again. You don't have to redo this every single time, just keep this. You've now got this solution that should work for a while. You may want to dump it at the end of the season or something like that, but I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be good for, a few months at least. So be on the safe side, maybe change it every few months or every season. Well, there you have it. A quick way to create a solution so that way you're able to disinfect your tools, you don't spread diseases among your trees, you keep everything nice and healthy, and that way you don't end up having some sort of disaster where you infect a bunch of your trees inadvertently. Hope this has been helpful to you. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'd love that. Hit that notification bell so you can be alerted. If this sort of thing isn't for you, that's okay too. Whether you got 1 tree in your orchard or 500, until next time, stay busy. try this at home. Don't do it. I didn't drink it. It was a joke. Ah.